Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And as you know, I try to help guide you on this pilgrimage through life towards Chap Nirvana. And in order to do that, today's theme is about being fabulous over 50. But the topics I'm about to talk about could apply just equally as if you were over 60, over 70, over 40. The ideology behind it is that, well, birthdays that have a 0 in them tend to offer to conjure a negative mindset around them. We tend to, have a sort of inflection at times like that. We look back upon our life, particularly when you reach 50, because you know in all reality, there is more of your life behind you than there is stretching out in front of you. And it can begin to drop you into a negative spiral mentally about thinking about future birthdays and the aging process. So today, my goal is to try and talk about the positives which come as we grow older and how we should treat large birthdays, with a 0 perhaps, as something of a celebratory period within our lives. So I'm going to give you 7 tips today on why it is fabulous to be 50. Now, my first reason for saying life can be fabulous beyond 50 is you've been alive for half a century. Me, I've been alive 53 years, so I'm well over the halfway mark of life. And during that period that I've been here, I've had lots of successes. I've learned from many failures. I've accrued much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding about the world around me. And this in turn helps me to make much more balanced decisions when it comes to times in my life where I have to make a solid decision. Because, when you've been through things before, or you've seen your friends and your family members going down these paths, sometimes it's worked out and been really successful, maybe other times you've seen it go to rat's tails. The truth is, you're going to have an entirely different perspective at 50 than you did when you were 25, based upon that life experience. So for no other reason than that, when you're 50, the wisdom and the experience you have is a gift which has been half a century in the giving. Now, the second reason I'm going to give you today is that with age comes greatly increased self-confidence. I know that as I have reached these middle parts of my life, over 50 for sure, my personal self-confidence and self-esteem have flourished and grown to levels that I could not have imagined when I was a younger man. When I was younger, coming from a very humble blue-collar background as I did, I looked up at people who were older than me, perhaps had a higher status in life, and I was very deferential to them. I was very subservient to them because I considered them to be my betters in many ways. Maybe it was education, knowledge, experience, wealth, power, whatever it may be. And there were many occasions in my life when I stayed silent when I should have spoken up about something. When I saw something going wrong that I could have interjected and prevented it happening, I stood back and said, no, it's not for me to say, I'm just the humble person here. Now, as I have grown older and my confidence has grown and my strength of character has settled within my personality, I now know that I can speak on an equal level to any man or any woman in this world, be they king, be they pauper, because we are all created equal. It's what we do with that gift that we are given of life which makes the difference. And my confidence now says to me, I could speak to anybody, be they a boss or be they a subordinate, and as long as you speak to them respectfully on a level, you're always going to get that communication across. So confidence and the way that I carry myself with that confidence has been perhaps for me one of the greatest gifts that aging has given to me. Now, the next reason why aging is something to enjoy is by the time you've reached your 50s, you've probably achieved a level of financial stability that you could only have hoped for when you were in your 20s and your 30s. Because let's face it, if you've reached 50, you've probably achieved the zenith of your professional career, all right? If you haven't made it by the time you're 50, You're probably not going to. And now that you've come to the stage where you've all of these years of work and labour and hard graft are behind you, the decades you've put in, 30 plus years at this point, you should be reaping those rewards now. You should be having a little bit of stability in your life. You should have a little bit more money than you had for sure when you were in your 30s and your 40s, when you were buckling down in the workplace in that ambitious building phase of your professional life. Now, you've kind of made it, and you can now start to rebalance that work-life situation so that you can focus a little bit more on those leisure activities that you always looked forward to when you were younger. Because believe me, if you don't do it now, you'll be too old to enjoy it if you let a few more decades slip away before you start to think, now is my time to start enjoying myself. Now, one of the other reasons why I think 50 can be fabulous is travel. Because for me, traveling has been one of the most enduring and enjoyable passions of the second half, at this point, of my life. Do you know, when I was in my 20s, I went that whole decade of my working life without taking an international holiday. I was in the military and I transitioned during that decade of my life into my second career in law enforcement. And I didn't take a holiday. I was so focused on building a career, building a life, building a nest egg of money that I didn't want to spend it and I didn't enjoy the pleasures of travel. I was 31 before I took my first trip to the United States of America. And it kind of flicked a switch in my mind. And since then, I have taken every opportunity to enjoy travel because it exposes me to culture, to different living practices, to different sights and sounds and smells that have elicit wonderful sensations within the senses of my body. In short, it's made me a more rounded, more interesting and interested person. Now that's only possible in your 50s because you've got a little bit more stability. Maybe you've got less responsibilities. Your children are getting a little bit older probably. Your workplace, you've settled into the career. You're ready to start enjoying life a little more. And travel is where you should focus that attention. Because the more you travel, the more depth you have as a character. Now for me, I love traveling. For me, it certainly rounds out my knowledge of the world and actually my knowledge of myself. Already this year, and I'm recording this in August of 2023, in February, I flew to the Middle East. I had a break there. I had a wonderful time. Not long after that, I flew to the Netherlands and I had a wonderful time there with my family traveling around. About 6 weeks ago, I went to the United States of America. Went to stay with a friend who was getting married. Again, I immersed myself of the culture of another nation. Shortly, in a couple of weeks, I'll be flying off to Greece for my annual summer family holiday. And then later in the winter, before Christmas, I will again be going to Europe to continue my travels and my exploration of the world around me. Now, I couldn't hope to have done these things when I was in my 20s because I couldn't have taken that much time off work, I couldn't have afforded it, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity or the knowledge or the confidence to do those things. But all of those various things have now come together and they allow me to enjoy my life and my travel within life to a point that I could never have dreamt of. So if you're 50 and you haven't yet started to explore the world, get out and get those adventures under your belt. Believe me, when you're 80, it's a little bit too late. Now is the time. Grasp the moment. Now, the next thing you should really have got a grip of by the time you're in your 50s, I think, and the gift that your 50s give you is finding a passion in life. Now, I've said many times to people, everyone should have a passion in life, a reason to get out of bed on those days where you feel a little bit down and a little bit sad. Or say you're working a difficult shift in work. You've got to have something in your mind that keeps you going to the end of the day, that makes you push towards the weekend where you can enjoy yourself. Now, you can always have these things, but many times as you're younger, you're working your way up in your profession, or you're investing lots of time in building a family, building a career. Your hobbies are one of the things which often get sacrificed. Those interests that you have when you're a child, that you have to put away. And you think to yourself, I'll come back to it one day. Well, my friends, gentlemen, today is the day when you're in your 50s. Hopefully, you'll be in a place professionally where you've got that work-life balance a little bit better under control. Your children are getting a bit older. You're not having to entertain them all the time. You can now revisit those things that you've always wanted to do or go back to. It doesn't matter what it is. A passion can be traveling, it can be fishing, it can be reading, it can be philately, it can be anything. But you should have a passion. If I was to walk up to you in the street and say to you, tell me right now, what is your passion in life? And it cannot be your family or your children. It has to be something else. I've met many people who cannot easily answer that question. And if you don't have a passion, what are you striving for in life? So when you're in your 50s, it's time to reinvest in yourself and find that passion again, which is going to make the latter half of your life a fun, enjoyable and enriching experience for you. Now, the next reason why I think 50 can be a turning point in your life for the better is physical and mental well-being. Do you know, I ran my first ever half marathon within a month of passing my 50th birthday, because up to that point, I never really had the time to do it. I had an intense job, which often involved shift work. I was building a family, my son was very young, and there was a lot to distract me from myself and my own well-being. But as I approached that half century, I realized, as many people do, that if I place good life practices into my daily living activities, I'm likely to live longer and live happier and enjoy this second half of my life. So I started to double down and refocus on myself. I started, following healthy activities, taking regular exercise, eating better. I more or less stopped drinking alcohol. And all of these things I just did as a matter of course when I was younger. I took my health for granted. I just thought I'm always going to be fit, capable and able. And then as time went on, I saw many of my friends, my contemporaries of the same age, falling victim to a lack of investment in their own physical and mental well-being. Friends became mentally ill. Others fell into substance addiction. Others suffered traumatic health issues as they grew older. But now I realize that now I'm in my 50s, I've got time to do things. I've got time to build those healthy habits that will stay with me for the rest of my life and ensure that, well, even if I don't live long, I will live happy. And when you're in your 50s, it's the time to really start thinking about that reinvestment into you and the future. Now, the final reason why I think being in your 50s can be a fabulous time in your life is because now, with all of this experience, it's time to start contributing a little bit back to society. We've been on a long journey. Half a century of experience is now under the belt, and we've got lots to give back to the world, which has given to us up to this point. Now that might mean just, giving money to charity when now you've got a little bit more cash because your career has flourished and you're perhaps a little bit more flush with money. Or it could be even more valuable than money is time. All right, you can contribute some of your time to a charity. It can be to a charity which is very close to your heart, and that can involve being a face-to-face worker with clients. You can become a frontline charity worker, doing any number of things out there. Or you can use your leadership skills that you've taken all of these years to acquire and hone in your professional life and bring it to the charity world. You could become a trustee in a leadership position and help steer a charity to success to help even more people. Or you can do both. I have to tell you, in my last decade of life, I have both been, and I remain to this day, a trustee of a charity and also a frontline charity worker. And both of those roles bring me enormous pleasure, personal growth, and gives me the satisfaction to know that while society has dealt me a fairly good hand, I'm happy, I'm lucky, I'm healthy, I can also help play that hand out to somebody else by using my experience to make their life journey a little better. In a way, YouTube allows me to do that to even more people. So now is the time. Now you've reached this point in life. We are lucky, we are happy, we are here, which is a lot more than other people can say. Now giving back to others and be enriched by the experience ourselves. So there we are, folks. My conclusion is that 50 is the new 40. Maybe it's even the new 30. You've got many decades left ahead of you, yet you've got decades behind you from which to draw upon that experience and that knowledge and use to make the rest of your life a wonderful place to live. And whilst I use 50 as the example here, because I am 53, if you're 60 or 70 or 30, you can apply these same principles to whatever stage you are at life and play them forward to make the future better for you. So, there we go, folks. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you had, I would be very delighted if you were to give it a thumbs up. Click the subscribe if you'd like to see more. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, drop it into the comment section below or send me an email. You'll find my email address here. And if you want to support the channel, you can either buy me a coffee or you could become a patron. I make additional video content for my patrons, and to find out how to become one, you will find all the details in the show notes below. So, until the next time, whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70, make every day count, enjoy it, and I will see you again very soon.